Chris Magnus resigned as the Commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner a few months ago. Reports suggested that Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and others forced him out and attempted to blame him for many of the failures at the southern border. The President has accepted the resignation of Christopher Magnus, the Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. President Biden appreciates Commissioner Magnus' nearly 40 years of service and the contributions he made to police reform during his tenure as police chief in 3 U.S. cities. The President thanks Mr. Magnus for his service at CBP and wishes him well, the White House said in a statement. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as your Senate-confirmed Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection over the past year. It has been a privilege and honor to be part of your administration. I am submitting my resignation effective immediately but wish you and your administration the very best going forward. Thank you again for this tremendous opportunity, Magnus said in his resignation letter. Magnus has joined an organization focused on police reform. He also recently spoke about the ongoing immigration crisis and wasted little time slamming the Biden administration. He issued similar tweets earlier this month about the border crisis. Sadly, right on point, Magnus tweeted in response to an LA Times article that detailed how President Biden's administration is proposing a new plan similar to one enacted by the Trump administration, which essentially argued that people who cross the border without permission should not be able to easily apply for asylum in the United States. Late last month, Magnus shared a report from the New York Times titled, "Alone and Exploited Migrant Children Work Brutal Jobs Across the U.S., which detailed the record numbers of migrants entering America under the Biden administration and how many ended up in dangerous jobs that violate child labor laws. What's described in this article is sickening. Just sickening," Magnus tweeted. The NYT article, which largely avoids admitting the historic increase in migrants coming into the U.S. under the Biden administration, details a harrowing story for many once they are in the country. These workers are part of a new economy of exploitation, migrant children, who have been coming into the United States without their parents in record numbers, are ending up in some of the most punishing jobs in the country, a New York Times investigation found. This shadow workforce extends across industries in every state, flouting child labor laws that have been in place for nearly a century. 12-year-old roofers in Florida and Tennessee. Underage slaughterhouse workers in Delaware, Mississippi and North Carolina. Children sawing planks of wood on overnight shifts in South Dakota. The article stated. The Times did note this new epidemic exploded in 2021. Which would be Biden's first year in office. The article also briefly details that since Biden took office, the U.S.-Mexico border has been ravaged by illegal immigrants trying to enter the country. Largely from Central America, the children are driven by economic desperation that was worsened by the pandemic. This labor force has been slowly growing for almost a decade, but it has exploded since 2021. While the systems meant to protect children have broken down. The article states. The number of unaccompanied minors entering the United States climbed to a high of 130,000 last year, 3 times what it was 5 years earlier, and this summer is expected to bring another wave. These are not children who have stolen into the country undetected. The federal government knows they are in the United States, and the Department of Health and Human Services is responsible for ensuring sponsors will support them and protect them from trafficking or exploitation. But as more and more children have arrived, the Biden White House has ramped up demands on staffers to move the children quickly out of shelters and release them to adults. Caseworkers say they rush through vetting sponsors. The article stated. It added. While HHS checks on all minors by calling them a month after they begin living with their sponsors, data obtained by the Times showed that over the last 2 years, the agency could not reach more than 85,000 children. Overall, the agency lost immediate contact with a third of migrant children.